Evening, sir. You drifted over the line back there. Can you step back by the car for me?
I'm out. Just talking.
Keep your hands where I can see them.
Hands high, partner's got the rear.
It's just my phone, all right? I'm grabbing my phone.
Don't reach. Do not reach.
Stop right there. Stay down. Don't
Dispatch,
move.
shots fired. One suspect down.
The stop began like any other. Midnight highway. 2 officers. 1 sedan drifting over the line. The dash lights flashed red and blue across the empty road. Routine, that's what they called it later. Routine traffic enforcement. Nothing more. But the camera told a different story. The driver stepped out before being told to. Nervous, focused, hands trembling as if already expecting something bad to happen. The officers moved in opposite directions, blocking angles, one near the trunk, one at the door. Words exchanged, quiet, tense, clipped. Then movement, fast, sharp. The body cam caught a flash, a shout, and then silence. The next frames showed confusion, panic, and something else. Fear. The report said procedure. The footage said control. And that difference would end 2 careers and reopen 3 old cases. Officer Ryan Hayes had been patrolling Highway 42 for almost 8 years. Nights like this were supposed to be uneventful. Cars passing, occasional speeding citations, and routine interactions. But there was a tension in the air, the kind that made every siren a little sharper, every shadow a little darker. The call came over the radio. A vehicle drifting between lanes. License plate partially obscured. Possible DUI, the dispatcher said. Hayes checked the rearview mirror. A silver sedan. No passengers visible. Engine humming low. Headlights cutting through the mist. 214, I see the vehicle. Initiating stop, he radioed. Officer Martin Crane was with him that night. Hayes trusted him. Years on the road, quiet, steady. Together, they had stopped countless vehicles. Nothing unusual, until now. The sedan slowed, pulling onto the shoulder. Hayes activated his lights. Crane positioned himself on the opposite side. Standard procedure. The driver's side door opened immediately, faster than expected. Hayes noticed the movements were jerky, calculated. Not panic, but anticipation. Hayes stepped out, hand hovering near his belt, body cam rolling. Evening, sir. You know why we stopped you? The driver, a young man with wide eyes, nodded slightly. His hands were visible, placed carefully on the steering wheel. I think so, he said, voice low but deliberate. Crane moved to the trunk. License, registration, insurance, Hayes added, keeping his tone neutral. The man reached into the glove compartment, slow. Every move recorded by the body cam. Hayes's instincts twitched. Something about the precision in those hands didn't feel right. The tension escalated rapidly. Crane glanced at Hayes, subtle nod. That's when it happened. The driver, without warning, opened the door wider, stepping out. Hayes's body cam captured the moment exactly. No threat, but a shift in posture. Crane moved instinctively. Hayes's hand stayed on the radio, ready to call backup. Words flew, quick, clipped commands. The driver hesitated, then froze. Then the first shout. Hayes lunged forward, caught the man's arm as it swung toward the dashboard. Crane reached for the trunk, flashlight cutting across the sedan's interior. The body cam caught every movement. The tension in muscles, the fear in the man's eyes, the rapid coordination of the officers. What the report later called routine compliance was anything but. Procedure was followed, technically, but Hayes knew what his camera had recorded. The subtle coercion, the unspoken threat, the way the officer's movements boxed the driver in. The young man's hands raised slowly, almost involuntarily, as if testing the officer's reaction. Hayes kept recording every second. The camera would not lie. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The driver complied eventually, retrieving documents as instructed. But the footage revealed everything. Small hesitations, whispered words, slight hand gestures that weren't noted in the official report. Every frame contradicted the routine stop narrative that would later appear on paper. By the time the incident ended, the driver was calm, compliant, and unharmed. Yet the body cam held the truth. a narrative of tension, silent commands, and implicit control. What had seemed routine to some would later unravel careers. As Hayes walked back to his cruiser, he knew two things. The camera was the only witness that couldn't lie, and the report would not match what it had recorded. And that difference, the one between what was written and what was seen, would ignite a chain of investigations, resignations, and public scrutiny that no one had anticipated. The morning after the stop, Officer Ryan Hayes sat at his desk in the precinct reviewing the bodycam footage. Every second replayed clearly. The driver's hesitant movements, the subtle but deliberate positioning of both officers, the precise coordination of commands. Each frame contradicted the written report he would later submit. The report called it a routine traffic stop, compliant behavior, and standard procedure. The footage told a different story. Hayes's hands hovered over the keyboard. He understood the gravity. Writing a report that matched the camera was simple truth, but the department had expectations. Routine stops were supposed to be uneventful. Anything else drew scrutiny. Hayes decided to follow protocol, but not without adding subtle accuracy. Every gesture, every word, every pause had to be documented in a way that matched reality, even if it risked pushback from superiors. He began with the initial approach. Lights on, cruiser positioning, and the driver's unexpected early exit from the vehicle. He carefully described how the driver's movements were precise, almost rehearsed. The camera had caught it, and Hayes knew that if questioned, the footage would verify everything. Next came the interaction with Officer Crane. Hayes described how both officers used positioning to maintain safety but avoided creating unnecessary panic. Subtle commands, brief gestures, and body language were noted. The report would reflect standard procedure but include the truth for accountability. Halfway through typing, Hayes felt a tap on his shoulder. Sergeant Calloway, his direct superior, leaned over. "Morning, Hayes. Saw the stop report on your desk. Heard it was routine?" Hayes nodded. "Yes, Sergeant. Routine stop. Compliance, nothing unusual." Calloway's eyes narrowed slightly. "Good. Keep it clean. Don't overcomplicate." Hayes swallowed. The sergeant wasn't wrong. Officially, it had to appear routine. But the bodycam would speak the truth if anyone looked beyond the report. Hayes didn't respond. He simply nodded and turned back to the screen. By late afternoon, the report was filed. Routine traffic stop. Driver cooperative. Standard procedure followed. No incidents. All technically true, but incomplete. The camera held the missing context, the tension, the subtle maneuvers, the moments of hesitation that had never been reported. That evening, Hayes returned home. He connected his bodycam to a secure drive. Watching the footage again, he noticed details he had missed during the live stop. The driver's eyes flicked to the trunk multiple times before reaching for documents, a small but telling sign of awareness. Officer Crane's hand lingered near his belt during the initial interaction, a precautionary movement recorded but not noted in the report. A faint sound, almost inaudible, seemed like a whispered instruction, evidence of communication between the officers beyond normal commands. Hayes realized how easily these moments could be misinterpreted if taken out of context, and yet, for someone trained to observe, the footage revealed a clear narrative. Authority applied with subtle pressure, fear contained, control maintained. He emailed Kellum, a trusted former officer turned investigator. "You need to see this. Routine stop is anything but." Footage attached. "Full 24-minute clip," Kellum replied within minutes. "On my way. Bring the files. We'll review." Within the hour, Kellum arrived. They watched together, analyzing every frame. Kellum's expression grew more serious with each playback. "This isn't just a routine stop," Kellum said finally. "Look at the positioning, the subtle cues, the pauses. Someone wanted to control the narrative, and they thought they could get away with it." Hayes nodded. "The report is technically correct but incomplete. The camera holds the real story, and if anyone challenges it, the footage will win." Kellum leaned back. "This is bigger than a traffic stop. This could expose patterns of behavior, how officers handle stops, how superiors might pressure subordinates, how narratives are shaped for the department. You just captured proof. The realization hit Hayes hard. The footage wasn't just a record of one night, it was a tool that could reveal systemic issues. And with Kellum's help, they could ensure it was preserved, analyzed, and ultimately used to protect truth and accountability. Hours passed as they documented every detail, timestamping each significant action, word, and gesture. Hayes took notes on movements, body language, and responses. Kellum cataloged anomalies and cross-referenced them with departmental procedures. Together, they began to construct a meticulous, irrefutable record. By the time they finished, the weight of responsibility pressed down on Hayes. This footage, properly used, would force the department to confront discrepancies. Officials who claimed routine stops were safe and controlled would be challenged. And the drivers, the public, and future officers would all benefit from this transparency. One thing was certain. The camera hadn't lied. And now, Hayes would ensure no one else could. The next day, Officer Ryan Hayes returned to the precinct with a quiet determination. He had filed the official report. Routine, clean, unremarkable. But inside, he carried the full truth. The bodycam footage, stored securely on an encrypted drive. He didn't mention it to anyone. Not to Sergeant Calloway. Not to Officer Crane. Not to anyone in the department. But he knew that the footage made him a target. Not for what he had done, but for what he had recorded. The precinct hummed with normal activity. Radios crackled, officers walked through the halls, and dispatchers relayed calls. Yet subtle changes caught his attention. Side glances, hurried whispers, and the occasional door closing behind him. Hayes's instincts screamed, someone new. By mid-morning, an email appeared in his inbox from an anonymous address. Subject line, "Stop recording." He hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He opened it. Officer Hayes, you know the rules. Routine stops are routine. Compliance is mandatory. Body cams are for accountability, not exposure. Stop recording or face consequences. Internal affairs. Hayes's heart rate spiked. The note confirmed his fears. IA was aware of him, aware of the footage and trying to intimidate him into compliance. But the camera had captured their actions. It wouldn't lie. He immediately called Kellum. They know, he said. Internal affairs. They're aware I have the footage. Kellum's voice was calm but firm. Then you protect it. Encrypt backups. Don't interact with them. And we move fast. The moment they realize the threat, they'll try to delete or alter records. We have to secure everything before they can touch it. Over the next several days, Hayes and Kellum worked methodically. Every copy of the footage was duplicated to multiple secure locations. They cross-referenced the motel stop with other recorded incidents. Every anomaly, every deviation from standard procedure, every subtle pressure tactic was noted and cataloged. Meanwhile, Hayes noticed unusual behavior within the precinct. Officer Crane avoided him, lingering near doors and glancing toward his desk. Supervisors checked in more frequently, asking about missing paperwork or clarifications on reports that had already been submitted. Hayes recorded these interactions on his personal device, quietly, methodically. By the end of the week, the picture was clear. Internal Affairs had been manipulating stops and reports systematically, using authority to control narratives and suppress evidence. Hayes's footage was the first unaltered record that contradicted the official story. He presented a copy to Special Agent Cole, the federal liaison overseeing department oversight. Cole reviewed it silently, frame by frame, every gesture, every word, every unspoken movement. This, Cole said finally, is more than a single stop. This is proof of systemic abuse. You kept the camera on when it mattered most. That decision just exposed a network of manipulation. Hayes exhaled slowly. And now what? They know I have it. They'll retaliate. Cole shook his head. They'll try. But the footage is secure, And once the public sees it, no one can deny it. You've shifted the balance. Within 2 days, federal investigators moved to review archived body cam footage from other officers. Patterns emerged quickly. Similar stops, similar deviations, subtle manipulations, and unusual commands. The network of influence within internal affairs extended further than anyone had imagined. Officers had been pressured into writing false reports, ignoring deviations and framing events as routine. The motel stop footage, Hayes realized, wasn't just evidence. It was a key that unlocked the entire system. He returned to the precinct one evening under the pretense of completing paperwork. The hallway was silent, empty except for a few night officers. Hayes checked the office cameras from the security monitor. Nothing unusual. He kept recording on his hidden device. Every footstep, every whisper, every interaction would be documented. Suddenly, a shadow moved near the evidence room. Hayes froze, hand on his concealed body cam. A uniformed officer approached, badge clipped to the chest, walking slowly, deliberately. Hayes's instincts told him this wasn't ordinary. The officer paused, glanced around, then continued down the hall, disappearing from view. The body cam had captured everything. By the time Hayes left the precinct that night, he understood the reality. Internal Affairs was aware of him, but they had underestimated the camera. Every move, every attempt to intimidate, every subtle command would be captured, documented, and preserved. The footage wasn't just proof of the stop, it was proof that no one within the department could act unchecked. Hayes had turned a routine patrol into a pivotal moment, and the next step was clear: public exposure. By early morning, Officer Ryan Hayes had made his way to a secure federal office. The encrypted drive sat on the passenger seat, its contents carrying months of documentation, dozens of recorded stops, and unaltered footage proving deviations from standard procedure. Hayes knew this was the culmination of everything he had recorded: every subtle gesture, every whispered command, every manipulation by Internal Affairs. The moment had arrived to ensure the truth reached those who could act. Special Agent Cole met him at the lower entrance. Calm, precise, professional. "Officer Hayes," he said, "you understand what you're about to do. This footage exposes systemic abuse. Federal oversight will intervene, but the department will react. You must be prepared for resistance." "I understand," Hayes replied. The camera never lied. "I'm not stopping now." Inside the secure room, they connected the drive. The footage began to play. Every frame captured the night of the stop: the driver's cautious movements, the officer's subtle positioning, the whispered exchanges that were omitted from the report. Hayes's voice, clipped commands, and every silent hesitation were visible. Cole leaned forward. "This isn't just about one stop. You've captured a pattern. The network of influence in Internal Affairs, the manipulation, the intimidation, it's all here. And because you didn't turn off the camera, we have undeniable proof." Hours later, federal agents executed coordinated actions across the department. Evidence lockers were sealed. Reports were cross-checked. Officers identified in Hayes's footage were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The ripple effect was immediate. Supervisors who had assumed unquestioned authority found themselves scrutinized under federal observation. Back at Hayes's safe house, he and Kellum reviewed the footage again. Enhanced playback revealed minute details missed during the live review: the subtle gestures indicating stress in officers, the exact moments commands crossed into intimidation, and small discrepancies in documentation that had gone unchallenged for years. "This is going to change the department," Kellum said quietly. "They'll restructure oversight, policies will be rewritten, and future stops will be under scrutiny." "You've made sure of that." By evening, news outlets had obtained the footage under federal oversight. The public watched as what had been labeled a routine stop unfolded into a tense, controlled encounter. Viewers could see the difference between written reports and the reality recorded by the body cam. Public scrutiny mounted. Questions arose from city officials, community leaders, and watchdog groups. Within a week, multiple officers resigned. Internal Affairs faced federal investigation. Department policies were overhauled. The narrative of routine stops, as safe and uneventful, was shattered. Hayes sat quietly in his living room, the bodycam on the table in front of him. It was scratched, worn, but its lens remained pristine. It had done its job. The camera had captured truth that no report could alter, no intimidation could erase, and no narrative could hide. A message arrived from Cole. Footage reviewed. Advisory positions available. Stay ready. The next case will need your documentation. Hayes stared out the window. The streets were calm. The city carried on. But the system had been forced to reckon with its flaws. One camera, one officer, one decision had shifted accountability. He picked up the camera and placed it back in the drawer. For now, the footage was safe, its truth preserved. The next stop, the next recording, would be another chance to ensure justice was documented, not rewritten. This routine stop proved that silence protects manipulation, but vigilance captures truth. Officer Hayes' story is a reminder that every recording matters, every procedure counts, and every frame can speak when words are insufficient. For those interested in learning how to use bodycam footage to ensure accountability, track inconsistencies in official reports, and document encounters safely, a free guide is linked below. The next story is already being recorded.